Matthew Farfilth, the disgraced former Stoughton detective who groomed and exploited Sandra Birchmore for years, now faces an additional charge in relation to her death. Because when you are knockin' on karma's she brings the whole goddamn grand jury. This and more in today's video.
You know, Vera, you've missed your vacation, love. You should have been a scout leader.
Hello, and welcome back, roommates, to another titillating edition of Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including guy who looks like he used to bring Chris Hansen a $5 footlong to catch a predator sting, Matthew Farfilth, proving that once again to the world that evil doesn't retire. It just gets re-indicted.
What can we do? When will this crime wave end? How will we defeat the evil? Why am I asking you all these questions?
From the desk of Laura Cromalty over at the Boston Globe, a former Stoughton police detective accused of unaliving a young pregnant woman by the name of Sandra Birchmore. Let's say her name loud and clear for everybody in the back of the room to hear us. Allegedly began exploiting when she was 15 years old. I mean, that was pretty much confirmed from the 32,000 messages that Nick Guarino just happened to miss. Now faces prosecution for the death of the male fetus she was carrying. In a superseding indictment filed Tuesday, that's today, a federal grand jury added the charge against Matthew Farfilth, who I guess is 39 now. That's a rough-looking 39, I'll tell you. Jeez. Who was accused of unaliving Sandra Birchmore in her Canton apartment on February 1st, 2021. The indictment marks the first time authorities have identified the gender of the unborn baby she was carrying. Birchmore was 8 to 10 weeks pregnant when she died, the indictment said, and we will pull that up in just one moment. But if you recall, the DNA test that was taken to see whether or not he was a match for the father has excluded Farfilth as the baby dad. I wonder if Sandra Birchmore knew the gender of the baby or not, or if anybody can confirm. I know she was excited to have this baby, and the baby and the pregnancy was a clear motivator, in my opinion, for Matthew Farfilth, who I believed he was the father of her child, to unalive her. And the scary part is that this dude does actually have an offspring. I think maybe more than one offspring out there in the wild. And it's just so sad when you think about all of the people in the world who want to have children, people like Sandra Birchmore who wanted to have a child, and whose dreams are to become a parent one day, oftentimes who can't be parents, and then you get douche canoes like this guy who are fathers, and now their kids have to go throughout their life without a father, potentially. I mean, he is facing the death penalty. Regardless, I don't know if he has a relationship with his kids at this point, if the mother of his children or child allows contact with him. I don't know. But it's sad nevertheless, because now they have to grow up knowing the truth about who their dad is and what he did to this poor woman. Whether he unalived her or not, he did exploit her and groom her from a very, very young age. And I just feel awful for his kid/kids. The new indictment maintains the original charge against Farwell of unaliving a witness. And again, just to remind you, this is how the feds were able to indict him in the first place, is the fact that she was a witness to when he would meet up with her on the clock to exploit her and essay her. Because let's call it what it is, just because this might have happened also when she was an adult and of the age of consent doesn't mean that this relationship, which it wasn't, was something she could ever consent. The charge of unaliving a witness is eligible for the death penalty. The U.S. Department of Justice must render its decision about capital punishment by January 20th. So just a couple of months from now, we will have that decision, and his trial is scheduled to begin on October 5th, 2026. So by the time this thing actually hits the court, the DOJ is probably going to need a Ouija board to subpoena all these additional witnesses. If it even happens in 2026 with the way that they've been delay. And I'm sure Matthew Farfilth ain't keeping stump on whoever the heck else is involved, in my opinion. As we learned a month ago, his counterpart, Robert Devine, or as I like to call him, Deviant Devine, who was a supervisor for the Stoughton Police Department, contacted Sandra Birchmore on the day she died, which we did do a video on when this came out, and you can find it on the playlist. And like I said in that video, if there was a second party involved in the staging of her unaliving, or herself unaliving, because it wasn't unaliving, but it was staged as a self-unaliving. I really hate YouTube sometimes. And this would make the most logical sense to me. The person who is really the father of Sandra's unborn baby was the one to assist in the potential cover-up to follow. And is this person being protected by Farfilth, or is he spilling it all and dragging him down with him? Could it have been Devine? Because also Brian Holmes, who was a former deputy at Stoughton Police who conducted the internal affairs investigation concerning Sandra Birchmore, he testified at Devine's proceedings back in June. And this is only how we're hearing and learning about this information, is through what's being reported, because obviously we can't, these are all closed hearings. And according to his testimony, from an examination of Sandra Birchmore's electronic communications, it was revealed that Devine's reaction to her raising the possibility that Matthew Farfilth had fathered her unborn child was something along the lines of, you shouldn't be talking to me about this. You shouldn't be talking to anybody about this. And this is the part where I summon you, Public Records Request Queen Corey A. Hopkins.
Assemble! Here, huh? What's up?
You're already slaying the day inside of Meatball's Palace, so if you have the bandwidth to add this to your docket, or maybe somebody else who has the bandwidth, the means, and the stomach to file some of these public records requests, because this is how Fishman, the hearing officer, closed the proceedings, but later authorized a release of the recordings. And the Globe obtained redacted recordings of the June proceedings from attorney Howard Friedman, a civil rights lawyer who got them through a public records request. And the Globe requested a copy in July, but the commission has yet to provide them. So again, girl, I don't know, like, what the right avenue to go about that is, or if there's somebody out there who wants to tackle this. But look at everything that's come out with coccyx, because you are doing the dang thing. And you were saving lives. This is important work that you're doing, and I know you know that, and I know you're getting all the flowers, but here's some more. Take some flowers. Take a fake house plant from Target. I know you are appreciated. And I know that anybody can do this, but not everybody has the means or the smarts to do it as effectively as you. You could teach a whole goddamn course. But anyways, I'm done singing your praises for now, but let's get into the indictment, shall we? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but pretty much count 2 is the reason why he's being charged with the death of the unborn child is because of all of the things that are outlined in the first 9 paragraphs of this superseding super indictment. But I mainly wanted to focus around, since we've been through a lot of it, the grooming, him exploiting her, we've been over that already. But 6 through 9, in or around December of 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant, and she told Farfilth that he was the father of the child. And again, I don't know if she thought he was the father, wanted him to be the father, or didn't know. I don't know. We'll never probably know the answer to that, and it doesn't really matter in hindsight, because it seems like he believed he was a father. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Stoughton Police Department and told a department employee that Farfilth had been essaying her. And then shortly thereafter, a Stoughton Police Department employee told Farfilth about the call. So they gave him a heads up. Hey, by the way, her friend gave us a ring-a-ling and made some serious allegations about this. So just letting you know, bro. The bro code, the blue code, the thin blue loin. On or about February 1st, 2021, this is when Farfilth allegedly unalived Sandra by strangling her to death. And then shortly thereafter, Farfilth staged Birchmore's Canton, Massachusetts apartment to make it appear as if Birchmore had committed her own unaliving, which Meatball Morrissey has been pretty steadfast in standing by. At the time of Birchmore's death by strangulation, she was pregnant and carrying in utero an unborn male child whose gestational age was between 8 and 10 weeks. So count 2 you can find on page 5 of the indictment, production of unborn child. So the grand jury realizes and incorporates by reference the allegations in paragraphs 1 through 9, which we went over just now, of the superseding Supersize Me indictment. On or about February 1st, we again are charging Matthew Farfilth with engaging in conduct that violated yada 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 and thereby caused the death of a child in utero at the time the conduct took place.
People want to know, why do you think Michael Morrissey hasn't charged anyone?
Because he thinks it's a suicide. I heard him say it on I believe it was May 1st at the Quincy City Caucus. He said, I believe that the medical examiner's opinion of suicide will be upheld. And
was that recent? When was that? May when?
May 1st. I can look it up.
This year? 2025?
2025.
Now, if you ask me, all roads lead back to Matt's buddy, John Fanning. Remember this report from August 16th, 2021? So this is what, like 6 months and some change later. On February 4th, 2021, Trooper Dunn responded to Canton for the self-unaliving, death of Sandra Birchmore. Trooper Dunn, whose name you might also recognize as well too, from the Karen Reed case was advised by multiple sources that the victim, Sandra, was possibly pregnant and that she said the father of the baby is Detective Matt Farwell from the Stoughton Police Department. On February 9th, 2020, Troopers Dunn, Keefe, and I responded to blankety blank 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 in Canton to retrieve Sandra's laptop and any other relevant evidence, and we retrieved her Apple laptop, and we were able to use a password to gain access to the device. This device was then turned over to Trooper Nick Garino for data collection and preservation. We know how good he is at preserving things. Over the next several weeks, I analyzed data from Sandra's laptop. In particular, I was investigating any criminal conduct related to Sandra's death and blankety blank blank blank. Sandra's laptop gave me access to approximately 12 months of iMessages, social media content, and other documents/databases. Matt and Sandra had texted thousands of times over the year, as well as communication with many other friends and family of Sandra. It was clear, based on text with Matt, that he and Sandra had, in his description, a intimate relationship, as he told us in his previous interview. Redacted, redacted, redacted. All of these conversations were flagged in the forensics report of her laptop. But not the ones where they talked about how he wished she had, begged him to take her virginity earlier than he already had. What about that, bro? Didn't think to flag that one? Sandra communicated often with friends and family. It appeared that Sandra had relationships with other men in the months leading up to her death. So, of course, it's like, oh, well, yeah, she's the victim, but she's also loose, right? She's a loose gal. She's got a lot of problems, right? Probably has daddy issues. I would love to know what was in his group chat. And now he was describing Sandra Birchmore to the other troopers investigating this case. Can we get an extraction on his cellular device? Because I would love to know. Not that he necessarily proctored anything, but I'm just saying, birds of a feather flock together. Flock of seagulls. There were no threats of harm by any of these individuals, including Matt. Well, I think most people, especially if you're an investigator of the criminal persuasion, you wouldn't necessarily write out, I'm going to unalive you, unless you want to get caught, but clearly he did because he was very, 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 very careless in his digital footprint. And thank God for that. And thank God the Fed stepped in, because it seems like the Stoughton Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police wouldn't have stepped in my opinion. But what say you? I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed today's content, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video from me. Make sure you hit that like button. It's free, and it really helps get this video out to more and more people. And even if you don't like the sound of my voice, this is an important story. There are other channels that are fortunately covering this case, so it needs as many eyes, ears on it, right? So that those who need to be held accountable are held accountable. And until then, stay suspicious.
John Ralphio? Gone to take his